Welcome to bringing, welcome to bringing Jesus back into focus. I'm a pacifist Christian, a follower of Jesus, born into the Jewish Christian Catholic Church in 1957. I left when I was 16 or 17 because they were teaching that the two-headed God of the Jews, there are two Yahwehs in the Jewish religion, of course, a war god, a brutal killing, genocidal war god, the same as the Roman war god Mars, the Greek war god Ares, and the Egyptian war god Sekhmet. In fact, if you read the description of the Egyptian war god Sekhmet, a brutal killer, just like Yahweh one, and Sekhmet breathes fire. Well, if you look through the Jewish religion, you'll find Yahweh one incinerates children when they don't please him. It's the same God. Sekhmet is Yahweh one. Yahweh one is Sekhmet. They're war gods. They're all satanic. That's why Jesus said you're children of Satan. You're worshipping a war god. That's why he said that to them. He was trying to get them out to only worship the good prophets who were trying to lead them to a loving God. They didn't fully get there, and they didn't fully understand the universality of that loving God, but Jesus did. He was the first Jew who became what you call spiritually enlightened, same as Buddha. He had what's called the clear light mind experience. He said if your eye is single, your whole body will be filled with light. He said you've got to clean the inside, the dirt inside the cup. You've got to clean that out. You've got to clean your mind, Jesus said, of all the evil in your mind. And then you will be clean and all your actions will be clean. Buddha said it's the adventitious negative things in your mind that are blocking the view of who you really are. Get them out of the way and there's your true identity, a spiritual child of love. In the Christian terminology, we would say of a loving spiritual creator in a heavenly spiritual world of love. Buddha would say you're an enlightened child going to nirvana, where there is no more suffering, and you're enlightened. You are singular, at one with love. Different terminology, 400 or so years apart, but Jesus and Buddha had absolutely the same understanding, and they both achieved it. And they both overcame temptation of the physical world and rose above it, so to speak, and became spiritually enlightened. And then they taught it. Now, the trouble is with the Jewish religion, of course, it's poisoning the Christian religion, as any Christian knows. And we've got this two-headed God of the Jews now that has dominated the Christian religion for centuries, whereas, of course, it's a lie. The Jewish God Yahweh, there are two Yahwehs. Jesus said so himself. You're worshipping a satanic war god. Stop doing it. Only worship the God of love. Now, as a Christian, I know that. That's why I left the Catholic Church. I'm not interested in worshipping Yahweh, thanks. And Jesus isn't coming back in the clouds. That's Satan, if it's anybody. How dare you slander Jesus by having that filthy, stinking book next to the Gospels? The book of Revelation is, of course, the book of Daniel. It's a Jewish book in the Old Testament. Get rid of it. Rip it out and burn it. That's what I tell everybody. So this is the book, the Gospels of Jesus Unplugged. We're reading the chapter on Matthew. So I've rewritten the Gospels. I've put out a new translation. This is especially good for Christians. Jewish Christians should read it, though. You can get it as an ebook. It's quite cheap. Because you might find it very stimulating. Jewish Christians might find the way I know Jesus as love and non-violence, and the loving spiritual creator as love and non-violence, and that Jesus taught we have two bodies and one leaves with death, which is what he taught in his words. And they might find this book quite revealing, clearer to understand. It'll make more sense. It's more uniform. It flows better. I've removed all of the Jewish distortions. There are no apocalyptic mentions in these translations because they're all lies that Jesus says he's coming back on the clouds and all this stuff. They've been put onto him. They had to put the paper trail through the Gospels to lead you to the book of Revelation, which is an evil book because it slanders Jesus. It assassinates who he is and who the loving creator is. It takes you back to worship Yahweh. So Jesus is now sandwiched between the old religion of the Jews here and the old religion of the Jews there, and he's sandwiched in the middle of it. What he was doing was leading the Jews out of their old religion into the new religion that leads you to the one creator. But someone put this apocalyptic book at the end, which then takes you back to worship the two-headed God of the Jews. Don't do that. So that's the Gospels of Jesus Unplugged. Just stay with Jesus and the one loving creator. The Jews worship two gods, not one. It's a dualistic religion. It's not monotheistic. It never has been, as far as I know anyway. Certainly not in living memory or however far back that goes. So this is Matthew part 3. We'll get on to reading it now. You can buy that this gospel book Unplugged. Get the second edition. I must cancel the first edition. just that I nearly die every day, so I've had to sort of really try to get as much work out as I can to defend Jesus and to defend his teachings and to remove the slander and the poison and the lies being taught by the Jewish Christians. And I'm just a Christian, so I don't put any of that stuff in there. That's evil. So we'll move on there. Commit to the spiritual way. Matthew 8:18-22. Scribe came up to Jesus and said to him, "I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, "Foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the spiritual child of our loving Creator in heaven has nowhere here on earth to lay his head and call his home." Then another who wanted to follow Jesus said, "Lord, let me first go and bury my father." Jesus replied, "Follow me and let those dead to their spirit bury their own dead. But you go now and proclaim the heavenly spiritual kingdom of our loving spiritual Creator." Another said, "I will follow you, Lord, but let me first say farewell to those of my household." Jesus replied, "No one who puts his hand to the plough and looks back is fit for the heavenly spiritual world of our loving Creator." Author. While these requests made by the followers seem reasonable, Jesus uses them to convey the urgency for all of us to first become living spiritual children before our body of flesh dies. Earthly, worldly affairs are secondary to our spiritual awakening. Jesus himself says this earth is no longer his true home, since he became spiritually awakened and at one with the heavenly spiritual world. He was ready to leave and go there. He knows it's existing. He knows of its existence 2,000 years ago, and he knew how to get there. He had a spiritual body that came alive, and he knew that wouldn't die when they crucified him, when they crucified his flesh. This requires an ongoing daily commitment to awaken to our true spiritual identity and live as a spiritual child right now. So he's saying to them there, look, follow me and let those dead to their spirit bury their own dead. But you now go and proclaim the heavenly spiritual kingdom. You follow me now and wake up to your spiritual body and teach others to wake up to it. That's what he's saying. If you waste time doing that, not waste time. I mean, they need to be told too. But he's basically saying, look, become fully spiritually awakened by following me now. Then you can help others become spiritual. But until you become spiritual, you're just going over there with other people who haven't awakened up to their spiritual body yet either, and time's ticking away. If you follow me for a while, you can understand what I'm saying. There's only one loving spiritual Creator. It's not the two-headed God Yahweh. Get out of that war God. Stop doing that. Come to me, come to the loving one, come to the world of love, the universe of love. It's a spiritual world, and awaken your spiritual body, bring it back to life. Then go and visit your relatives or whatever you're doing and spread the word. So his main point in this sort of little dialogue is that the most important thing for you and me is to be a spiritual child of love right now. And don't get tangled up too much in mundane matters, although we must do them. But they're not the primary journey we're on. The primary journey you and I on are to die and go to heaven. And the way to die and go to heaven is to prepare before we die by becoming children of love and non-violence now in a violent world. That's the real work. Then whatever we manifest in the world will come out of that love and non-violence, which is coming from heaven. So heaven will be on your side. You'll be empowered by heaven. They'll do their best to help you. Be a light of heaven in this world where Jesus says he has no home here. He's not staying here. This isn't his home anymore. Heaven's his home. And he said, you too must come to where I've gone by following my way. Become like me and I'll see you there. I'll be there to greet you, he said. Matthew 9:13. Jesus loves sinners. Jesus saw a tax collector named Matthew sitting at the tax office, and he said to him, follow me. So Matthew arose and followed him. Now Matthew made a great feast in his house for Jesus and his disciples, and many tax collectors and sinners came and sat down with them at the table. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked the disciples, why does Jesus eat with tax collectors and sinners? Jesus heard them and said, those who are spiritually well have no need of a doctor, but those who are ill do. Go and learn what this saying means. I desire compassion, not sacrifice. For I do not come to call those who are already spiritually well, but sinners who need to change their ways to become spiritual. Author. Jesus had no need to save children who were already spiritually minded in love. He had to bring the spiritual way of love to those in society who were outcasts, sinners, doers of evil, or those condemned, who needed to know the loving spiritual Creator cares about them as much as any other child. And there is a place in heaven for them also, if they just change their ways and awaken into their true spiritual identity of love, truth, and non-violence. Often when people are homeless or on the street or drug addicts or whatever they may be, of course no one loves them. They're like the lepers in our modern day world, Western society. They're outcasts. But in fact, when you sit down with them and talk to them and love them a bit and buy them food and drink and get to know them, they're just like you, but they've just, made mistakes. But that they are a child of God, just as you are a child of God. Jesus knew that. He knew that everyone has a spiritual body in them. To what degree it is filled with love and non-violence, well, that's the only difference between all of us on earth. Matthew 9:14-15, fasting without Jesus. The disciples of John came to Jesus and asked, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast?" Jesus replied, "Can the descendants of the bridal chamber grieve as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast." Author. The question they asked Jesus concerned fasting from eating earthly food for physical nourishment. But Jesus turns it into an answer, referring to his disciples no longer having the nourishment of his words after he leaves, as if fasting. But while he is still with them, they have his words to nourish their spirits. So it's just a simple play on words. He's saying, the main food I give them is spiritual food, but they'll be fasting after they kill me. They won't be able to get any more from me because I'll be in heaven. That's what he's saying. Beautiful. New wine, old wine. Matthew 9:16-17. Now this is one of the most important sayings of Jesus that all the Jewish Christians in the world and everyone who creates a Bible is going against what Jesus said to do. I'll say that again. Every single Bible in the world is against what Jesus himself said to do. You are doing something wrong. I'm telling you this and warning you. You have mixed the old wine in and the new wine in one wineskin called the Bible. You must not do that. The Jewish religion is a different religion. You must cut the Bible in two now from here on. All Jewish Christian churches must do it. You must cut out the book of Revelation and burn it, because it's just a slanderous piece of filth. And then you're left with the Christian religion called the Gospels and the letters that are there. That's the Christian Bible. The Gospels and the letters. And that's it. New wine, old wine. Matthew 9:16-17. Jesus spoke a parable to them. No one tears a piece of cloth from a new garment and sews it onto an old garment. For if he does, the patch will not match the old, and it will lift away from it the new from the old, and a worse split or schism is made between the two. And no one puts new wine into old worn-out wineskins. If he does, the new wine will burst the old skins, as they cannot hold it, and the new wine will be lost, and the old skins destroyed. But new wine must be put into new wineskins to preserve its purity, and both are preserved. And no man used to drinking old wine desires new wine, for he only knows the old wine, and thinks it is good enough. Jesus said, a person cannot mount two horses or bend two bows, and a servant cannot serve two lords. That servant can only respect one, but offends the other by doing so. The Bible has the old wine Jewish religion testament in it, and that same wineskin called the Bible, same cover, same wineskin, has the new wine testament of Jesus in it, in the one wineskin. The Jewish religion can't hold Jesus. Jesus condemns the Yahweh one war God of the Jewish religion. You can't put that stinking war God in with Jesus in the one wineskin. They don't match. Jesus lifts off from it. Jesus has nothing to do with the murder and slaughter at Jericho and the Yahweh war God. He's not in that event at all. He only follows or is connected to the Yahweh of love in the Jewish religion. That's the other God. They should have called it Amore, or whatever their word is for love. Then everything would make sense. So this is one of the most important warnings he gave to the early Christians. Don't mix the loving one spiritual beautiful creator with the two-headed God of the Jews. Whatever you do, they don't match. It's interesting, he says, no one tears a piece of cloth from a new garment, you might say a new God, and sews it onto an old garment or an old God. For if he does, the patch will not match the old, and it will lift away from it. You can't put a loving, pure being of spiritual consciousness and love in a heavenly spiritual world of love onto another God that murders and kills and steals and incinerates children and commits infanticide. It'll lift off that because they don't match. He said, don't even try to do it. You'll make the schism worse. You'll be more confused than ever. Jewish Christians are confused. Author, Jesus warned his followers not to try and mix our one loving spiritual creator he was at one with, in with the Old Testament two-headed God Yahweh of the Jews, because they do not match. Yahweh is a dualistic God with one body called Yahweh but two heads. One Godhead is a brutal, murdering, thieving war god, the same as the Roman war god Mars, Greek war god Ares, and the Egyptian war god Sekhmet. The other Yahweh Godhead is God of love and peace, the same as the Roman god Pax, the Greek god Irene, and other gods of peace and love at that time. The Egyptian god was called Shu. The garment analogy Jesus uses is talking directly about the different spiritual identities. You cannot take a piece of our loving spiritual creator, who is only pure love, and try to sew it onto a dualistic God who loves and saves and hates and murders. If you do, you will lose the understanding of the true loving creator that Jesus taught us about and pervert and distort her spiritual identity. Unfortunately, all Jewish Christian churches have done this, mixing the two different gods together in one wineskin, falsely teaching they are the same God. And they call the one wineskin the Bible. Cut it in half, please. That's the Jewish religion. It is not the Christian religion. The book of Revelation is the book of Daniel. Rip it out and stuff it in the Jewish religion if you want it. I always advise followers of Jesus to cut the Bible in two, rip out the book of Revelation, which is the Jewish book of Daniel, and put the Jewish religion up on the shelf with all the other religions, the different religions, as they usually all have some love in them. And just stay with the words of Jesus about our loving spiritual creator and the spiritual way of love and non-violence that he gave us to follow to reach heaven. That's not the Jewish way. That's the way of Jesus. That's the way to the loving God of Jesus. Heaven's only love, the creating life force or creator of that spiritual universe and spiritual world is only love. We all have a spiritual body planted in our body of flesh for somehow. I don't know why we got a body of flesh at all, really, but as a gardener, I'm used to planting a seed in soil. And then the plant grows up out of the soil, right, out of the dirt. Then it flowers and then you get the fruit. I can only assume this spiritual creator, for some reason, has to plant our spiritual bodies in this world of dirt. But this is a really dangerous world, really dangerous. And you can lose your spiritual life here, like going to darkness and become satanic. It's a very dangerous place to plant any spiritual children, that's for sure. But we do have a spiritual body, and it does come to life if you follow someone like Jesus or Buddha. It's a really beautiful, beautiful thing. But Jesus, clearly told us the only way to heaven is love and non-violence. There isn't another way. The straight and narrow way is love and non-violence. There isn't another way. She is only love. God is only love. Heaven is only love. The children there have no evil in their minds whatsoever. As Jesus said, if your eye or mind is single in love, your body will be filled with light. He's saying your spiritual body will come alive with the loving spiritual life force flowing into you from heaven, as it did when he was baptized with John. He became a purified spiritual child of love and non-violence on earth. He walked around in his body of flesh for a while, as we all do. Then they nailed it to a cross and killed it. And he left in his perfect, beautiful spiritual body full of love. The loving spiritual life force in him was that was the power that did all the miracles, because it came from heaven, which is more superior than this world's ever going to be, or this universe. So we have to try to get to the other spiritual world where we're not going to get hurt anymore. We're not going to die anymore. And our family won't die, and our loved ones won't die, and there's no wars. There are no satanic children there, of course. They can't come in. So that's the goal. But in doing so, we become a bridge from heaven to earth. Remember that. Once you wake up to this, we start to bring love from heaven. It's like we become another conduit, bringing love from heaven into the material world of duality, good and evil. And we are the lights in the world then. We're 1 foot in heaven and 1 foot on earth. And without us connecting to heaven, then there'll be just darkness in this world. And as we can see, the satanic children of the world are really taking control now. You know, when you look at Trump and Netanyahu and Putin and Hamas and Ukraine, Iran, satanic children everywhere are, recruiting more children to poison their souls, to get them to be satanic. So it's horrible, just horrible. Never join an army or an air force or a navy, whatever country you're in. Have nothing to do with war or those who worship the stinking, filthy war god Satan and go to war. Few spiritual labourers. Matthew 9:36-38. When Jesus saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them, for they were harassed and scattered like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is truly plentiful, but the spiritual labourers are few. Therefore pray our loving spiritual Creator sends out labourers into the harvest to gather her children home. Author, with the rise of the cult of the materialists in this world and the satanic warmongers still prowling and murdering children, more than ever we need true spiritual children of love and non-violence to awaken and stand forth against all the evil in this world. Young people in particular have nothing to do with war. The 12 disciples, Matthew 10:1-15, Jesus called his 12 disciples and he taught them how to have mastery over unclean spirits, to cast them out and to heal all kinds of diseases and weaknesses. Now the names of the 12 apostles were these: Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. The 12 boys on the team. Well, we got a team, come on, let's get to work. How are we going to beat Satan is this way. We're all going to be loving and non-violent. What, they said? We're Jews. Yeah, we got to change, he said. You got to get on my team. We're working for a different coach now. A heavenly coach. She's only love. Oh, blimey. Sounds dangerous. It is, says Jesus. They can kill you. Disciples instructed, Matthew 10:5-15. And before sending them out 2 by 2, Jesus said to the disciples, before going on the road to the Gentiles and entering the cities of the Samaritans, first go to the lost sheep of Israel. And as you go, proclaim, saying, I bring the kingdom of the heavenly spiritual world for you to find and be near to. Heal the sick, raise those dead to their spirit back to life, cleanse the lepers, and cast out demons. Freely you have received the loving spiritual life force of heaven, so freely give it to others. Procure neither gold, silver, nor copper coins for your money belts, nor a bag for your journey, nor 2 tunics, nor sandals, nor staves, for a good worker is worthy of his keep. And whatever city or town you enter, inquire who is suitable to hear you, and stay with them until you leave that place. As you enter the house, say, peace be upon this house. And if the household is suitable to hear you, let your peace rest upon it, and stay in that house, eating and drinking whatever they offer you. However, if the household is not suitable to hear you, let your peace settle back into yourself. And if anyone will not receive you or listen to your spiritual words, then leave that house or town, and let the dust falling from your feet as you walk away be a witness to them. So they went out and taught people that they must have a change of mind and heart and become spiritual. And they cast out many demons and anointed with oil many who were sick and healed them. When they returned, they joyfully told Jesus, Master, even the demons are subject to your name. Now it's really beautiful here that he says a couple of very important things throughout this, of course. Don't worry about money and gold and stuff. And find anyone who is willing to listen, and then just teach them. Share my spiritual way to heaven with them, of the one loving spiritual creator. You've got a spiritual body. You've got two bodies. The flesh dies and rots, throw it to the vultures. Get your spiritual body healthy and well and full of love, and you'll live eternally in heaven. Teach them what I'm teaching you. But he says, and if you go to a house, say, peace be upon this house. But if they reject you, he just says, let your peace settle back into yourself. If they're not suitable, they reject you. Oh, get out of here. We don't want you around here. We don't like them Jesus people. Don't be insulted, and certainly don't say, well, if you're not following Jesus, you're going to be condemned and go to hell. He's not. See, the Jewish Christians make me mad sometimes. Really, not all of them, but they're beautiful Jewish Christians, far more beautiful than me. Don't get me wrong, way more beautiful than I've ever been. They'll be in heaven, but they only followed Jesus. They ignored the Jewish religion, couldn't care less about the book of Revelation. They followed Jesus to the loving Creator and just ignored the Jewish stuff. That's how you get to heaven if you're a Jewish Christian. So as you enter the house, peace be upon this house. And if they reject you or whatever, he just says, let your peace settle back into yourself. If the house is not suitable to hear you, they don't want to hear what you're saying, just let your peace settle back into yourself. Don't become violent or abusive or condemn them. Condemn not, you'll not be condemned. Judge not, you'll not be judged. You can see, if you just see his words, how we should be behaving as Christians. The Jewish Christians are different. They've got the poison of the Jewish religion and their war god and the killer and the revenge, and they're the only ones saved and all this rubbish. But when you're just a Christian like me and you just look at his words, you can clearly see it all peppered throughout his words, this beautiful way of just being kind and offering love and offering the way to heaven. But we don't condemn anyone, and we don't judge anyone in that sense. It's just beautiful, really beautiful. And the witness to those people is, well, if they don't want you in their town, you walk away from them. And the dust falling from your sandals as you walk away, well, that's sort of the witness, They didn't want to hear you, so you walked away. You didn't have a choice, Author, the original teachers of the spiritual way of Jesus were like beggars, relying on the generosity of those they taught, just as Jesus did. And he advised them to be frugal and only carry the essentials that they needed and avoid excess material things. This is where the vow of poverty comes from for many Christians, so they may concentrate on their spiritual life and share it with other children. Some Jewish Christian church leaders no longer follow this way of simple living and amass fortunes, setting a bad example for other followers of Jesus. Jesus also said to keep searching for anyone ready to hear the spiritual way of love that leads to heaven, even if some others may reject it. Be sheep among wolves, Matthew 10:16-23. Jesus said, Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be as discreet as serpents and harmless as doves. But beware of worldly men, for they can deliver you up to the councils to punish and whip you in their synagogues. You will be brought before governors and kings on account of following me, to be a witness of the spiritual teachings and way of love for them and for the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up to them, do not worry about what you should say or how you will say it. For you will be given the words to speak in that hour. For it is not you that speaks, but the spiritual life force of the loving Creator in you that inspires the words for you to speak. You will be betrayed even by parents and brothers, relatives and friends, and they will even put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because you follow my spiritual way of love and non-violence. But endure in this way until the end of your journey here, and then you will be safe in heaven, and you will have your soul and spirit alive and well. And whenever they persecute you in one city, flee to the next. Author: all followers of the spiritual way of love and non-violence in this temporary earth world can expect to be persecuted. But we must stay strong in our spiritual body and soul identity and keep it filled with our loving Creator's loving spiritual life force, ready to enter the eternal heavenly spiritual world after the death of our body of flesh. So he's certainly warning them, listen, you're going to get hammered because I'm teaching about the loving spiritual Creator who's only love. And you'll be teaching the Jews and, of course, Gentiles and Samaritans. And they've got two gods. The Jews worship two gods, a war god. I've already told them they're worshipping Satan. But, once you try to tell them, they'll hate you too. They already hate me for saying things like that. They'll hate you too because you'll say what I say. You're worshipping a dualistic God, two-headed God. So he's just warning them to get ready. You got to remember, pacifists are hated mostly by their own country. They're not hated by the enemy, are they? They're all pacifists. Great, let's go and invade them and murder them and steal everything. They're pacifists. We love them. But your own country would say, no, you must have a gun and kill the enemy. Well, I can't do that, of course, because I'm a Christian. And it's against my religion, it's against my spiritual faith, it's against my spiritual belief. It's against what I believe is going on here in this weird world. There's another world far more beautiful than this, and I would like to get there. And it's quite clear when you look at it intelligently and logically, spiritual worlds do exist. The way of love and non-violence changes who you are. It's just a fact. And when that happens, and when you experience this singularity of love, then you'll understand what Jesus and Buddha and all the great spiritual followers of this way have discovered. A mind that is perfectly undisturbed. In my meditation practices, or prayer practices you might say, we often go out of Melbourne, sit on a hillside away from the big city. I haven't been able to get out there for about a year because I've been too ill. I used to love going out there and sitting, there's kangaroos nearby and that sort of thing in Australia, and beautiful views. And I've had sessions there where I've just thought about heaven and how beautiful this loving spiritual Creator must be, and to be in her presence. She's pure love. Am I clean enough to be in your presence? I mean, I don't want to have filthy, stinking stuff on me, sin on your spiritual body, Am I making sure I'm not hurting anyone? I'm not doing anything wrong, whatever, Not in a worrying sense, but just a going over things, making sure I'm, caring and loving and forgiving and that sort of stuff. And the beautiful thing is, the more you realize you are practicing the spiritual way and manifesting it with your family or friends or homeless people on the street or whatever, you really do feel, gee, I really am your spiritual child now, or I'm really becoming more spiritual as your child. I am letting go of chasing money or doing this or doing that or whatever. And I am more concerned about my neighbour who's elderly and by herself. I go and check on her every couple of days. And I go and get her shopping for her. Before, you may not have bothered about that because she's not your family. You change. As Jesus said, let go of the material world and bring love into it from heaven, manifest it. We all need to work and earn a living, okay. But have you got time for others, to love others? Very important. So the way of Jesus and Buddha too is just so beautiful. And there isn't any other way to reach the spiritual world except in a spiritual body. You can't reach it in a body of flesh. I've met Jewish Christians who say, oh, your body of dead flesh is going to come back up and be resurrected, and of course all the followers of Jesus and who haven't offended God will be saved to heaven, and everyone else who doesn't believe in Jesus or God, they'll get one more chance to believe in them, otherwise they'll all be thrown into hell. I mean, It's almost insanity. But they're Jews. They're Jewish Christians talking about the book of Daniel, which is a Jewish book. They don't even know they're Jews. They think they're Christians. But they're not Christians. You can only be a Christian if you believe God is only love. That's the first thing. Secondly, you have to understand that Jesus was only love. Thirdly, you have to look at his words. He said, 2 people are in a single bed. One is sent forth. One is taken to be near to. 2 women are grinding at a millstone, little millstone. 2 women in the one position. One is sent forth. One is taken to be near to. The words have been altered and cut out in that reading. It's in my gospel book. The full reading is there. He's saying, 2 are in a single bed. The body of flesh is sent forth, redundant, dismissed, of no further use. The spiritual body is taken to be near to our loving spiritual Creator. They're the real words that Jesus spoke, something similar to that. And at the end the disciples say, where are they, Lord? Where have these 2 bodies gone? There's only one answer. If you check your Gospels, you'll only find this one answer. The other one's been cut out deliberately by the Nicene Jewish Christians. They cut it out, removed it. No one was allowed to put it in. He says, the dead body of flesh will be where the vultures gather. Jesus is saying, when your body of flesh dies, feed it to the vultures because it's worth nothing. All life has gone out of it. What did he say? The spirit gives life, but flesh profits nothing. They are his words. You have got 2 bodies, I'm telling you. This is what Jesus said. I haven't got any personal heavenly, revelation to tell you. This is what Jesus said, and I believe him. We have 2 bodies. Your body of flesh, when it's dead, feed it to the vultures, he said. That's all it's worth. The other body leaves. The Greek word is taken. In all your Jewish Christian Gospels, it just says taken. The correct translation is taken to be near to. That's the correct translation. And then they've cut out taken to be near to who? It's not there. Your spiritual body can only go to the source of your spirit, which is a spiritual creator in a spiritual world, to see whether you're ready to enter. That's what Jesus said. What about my body of flesh, Jesus? What happens to that? As part of the earth, feed it to the vultures and they'll crap it out. Because your body of flesh is just the earth. I mean, it's so beautiful, so simple, so logical, so intelligent, and yet completely spiritual. If I don't believe I've got a spiritual body, then none of this, I just won't think about any of this. But because I believe, it inspires me to keep going. I'm fighting a deadly neurotoxic fungal infection. It causes meningitis in the brain. Yet here I am talking to you and you'd think, oh, nothing's wrong with that guy other than he's a bit boring. He rambles on a lot. Hopefully, but nothing more than that. But what I say is my clear understanding of this person I've known my whole life since I was a little child is love and non-violence. If you know Jesus is love and non-violence, you'll be able to see the lies. I can give you this example. If you've got your mother or father or brother or sister or your wife or your husband or whatever, or your child, and a newspaper article comes out and slanders one of your family members, whom you know is one of the most beautiful people on earth, and a newspaper article appears saying they've committed murders, they cause sickness and this and that and this and that, you would know that that article is a filthy lie, because you know that family member or that close friend, you know they could never do that. The Jewish Christians do not look at Jesus and what he's saying. They don't know him. That's why they keep teaching this stinking filth called the Book of Revelation. It's a filthy satanic book. Get it out. It's stinking up the place. It's stinking up the New Testament. Cut the Bible in 2. It belongs in Daniel, that book. It's a Jewish book about the war god, the killer. Get it away from Jesus. He is life. He is true life. Heaven is true life. I hope you get there, because you won't suffer anymore once you do. But the only way to get there is by becoming at one with love. There is no other way that I know of. Good luck. Love your way to heaven. Hate your way to hell. The choice is yours. Choose the first one.